Hello internet friends, my name is Bay and welcome to the Legion Beta second pass look at my main, finally here, the Enhancement Shaman. I have been playing Enhancement since the Burning Crusade, brought Alliance Shamans via the stars in the form of space goats, and I've been playing it ever since, and finally, it feels like a melee class. Not a spellcaster, just happens to use melee strikes, but mostly only casts spells. It is very melee focused in Legion, and I'll be going over many things in this video. Hopefully it isn't too long-winded, but it is of course my main, so I want to make sure everything is out there. We discuss all the things, all the bells and whistles, all the cogs, screws, all that kind of good stuff. Early on, a couple of disclaimers of course though. I am testing this and showing you off things during the build just after that they toned down, or in some cases gutted, the Maelstrom generation for the spec entirely. We spend and we earn and spend Maelstrom on abilities, and they have just destroyed, in a way, a lot of how the spec used to feel, but that's when we didn't really care about Maelstrom. Like, it was an easy thing. We spent it all the time. We couldn't get rid of it. We're like, get out of here, Maelstrom, go! But now they have gone a little too far. In the next build, and in the notes section down below, if you want to watch the entire VOD down below, my bug report, my notes, blue post confirming a couple different things that Celestial and other devs have talked about. The biggest thing that's confirmed is in the next build, possibly when you're watching this video on YouTube, they are going to give Maelstrom generation back to Wind Fury procs, because right now they don't generate any. We're not sure if they're going to give back 5 per proc, or 2, or 12, or 900. We don't know yet, but they are going to give Maelstrom generation back to Wind Fury procs, which will definitely help the spec, because they did remove, there was some weird things. So when you would spend Maelstrom on a Storm Strike, it counts as 2 melee attacks. But both of those melee attacks, until now, would all generate Maelstrom also. So you'd spend 40 to gain 10. Same thing with Lava Lash, you would spend 30 to gain 5. So that is gone. They also reduced a little of the Maelstrom generation on Boulder Fist, one of our talents that we've been playing for a long time. That is retuned it slightly, but now the spec is very slow, and if you have watched any of my past testing VODs on the raid testing, you have seen how fast the spec plays. Now we have 2 rotational talents that give us a locked rotation. Locked rotations mean you are GCD locked. You are casting a spell or an ability every global, always. Or you can take Boulder Fist now, which unlocks the rotation, meaning there is some downtime. That, of course, right now, the downtime is a little bit too much, I would say, due to the fact that there is just a lot of waiting in the rotation, because Wind Fury, which procs relatively frequently right now, gives no Maelstrom. So that aside, you're seeing the fact that we have the Fury of the Stone Mother offhand here and the Doomhammer on our main hand. Of course, there are multiple skins. The offhand elemental weapon does change based on the skin of the main Doomhammer. Not the color, but the overall skin. Of course, you could just transmog over it if you don't like the mix match. I know people like to be even on both sides of their dual-wielding classes. I understand. But you can totally just transmog right over it if you would like to. I'll show you real quick. Shaman, since we only use one-handed maces coming up here in Legion, you can actually only use one-handed maces and axes for transmogging, but you can transmog over the offhand just like you would any other weapon, but only with axes and maces. I'm so glad many of you don't like this change. I personally hate... Yes, hello. Friend of the Grummels! What's your lucky do? Yeah, you could die of dysentery out here if I was playing Oregon Trail. But many shamans liked fist weapons. Excuse me. I personally don't like fist weapons. I am all about maces and axes. I feel that it feels a lot better. But it did also change again that the sheathing animation now makes the Fury of the Stone Mother offhand, the elemental weapon, go away. And then it comes back out, kind of animates in when you actually unsheath your weapons. So that's a weird change. Granted, the weapon in your offhand is a elemental weapon only. It is literally not a physical manifestation. So you have the Doomhammer main hand and the Fury of the Stone Mother offhand, created through the power of the Doomhammer and the powerful shaman who wields it. So it's a neat little hook. but I kind of got used to the fact that it was animating on your belt, like on your waist this whole time. Now that it goes away, it's kind of weird, but I think I'm back to being okay with it because you are wielding the Doom Hammer itself, and the fact that we are blessed by Therazane, the Stone Mother, to actually have an elemental offhand because we're so powerful, it fits the lore of the fantasy. I think it's fine. Totally okay in my opinion. But let us take these off real quick here and go over the basic spellbook, and then I will toss on these Dalaran cudgels to go over and show you some spell effects. So just to go over all the basic stuff real quick here. I hope I don't feel like I'm cutting too short on some things or going too fast or too slow on others, but this is my spec. I talk about it all the time on stream, so if you play Enhancement Shaman, a lot of these things to you will be refreshers on how they are working in Legion or not, but we still, of course, have Wind Fury. Wind Fury has a 5% base chance to proc on every main hand attack. That does also have a chance to proc on when you Storm Strike, because the main hand Storm Strike counts as Wind Fury. There's also some other interactions with different talents that count as main hand attacks that also proc Wind Fury. I think I listed those in my notes. Also, in the video description box below, you will also find Wordups. A huge, very thorough, like, Legion Beta Enhancement Primer that is beautiful. He makes great Google documents, and you can check that out and go through all those different spell effects. It all has different tooltips and different links away to database things if you want to dig in deep on all these things. But Wind Fury, just a chance per main hand attack to trigger 3 extra attacks, each dealing physical damage. And again, Maelstrom is coming back to this in a future build that has been confirmed by a blue post. Stormbringer is a new passive where each main hand attack as well, the same exact percent chance that Wind Fury has, 5% base plus mastery, has a chance to reset the cooldown on Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to cost 50% less Maelstrom and trigger no cooldown. So what that means is that, because again, we are very much a melee class now, our main button is now Storm Strike. You see Lightning Bolt on my bars, let me pull down my notes here, but Lightning Bolt is very much a ranged pulling tool. Unless you take one certain talent, it's not going to be utilized as an actual button. Storm Strike is our main bread and butter. Stormlash passive is that your attacks are your weapon attacks are enhanced, I should say. Enhanced attacks are from Flame Tongue, Frostbrand, or the Landslide talent when your weapons are enhanced. Your attacks have a chance to grant Stormlash to up to 2 party raid members. I have a talent right now just as a passive to not get in the way. But by default, it is 2 party raid members, 3 with the talent, for 8 seconds, causing their attacks and spellcasts to deal additional nature damage. Now, there's a post you can read about Stormlash. The math of this is incredibly ridiculous. All the stats come from the buffing shaman. The damage numbers from Stormlash gained by your party raid members, though, are also attributed back to the buffing shaman in Warcraft logs, for example. In Skada and Recount, I'm not sure if it'll show up as your damage or theirs, but Stormlash also has a little bit of weird back and forth, that when it procs on a person and they are attacking the whole time the 8 seconds is up, it distributes the damage proc evenly over all those attacks, right? Roughly. However, if the person is attacking for a little bit of the time the 8 seconds is up, and they stop attacking, and nothing is happening from their damage end, you will lose damage on that Stormlash. And the reverse of that is if they get the Stormlash buff and don't attack for 7 seconds, the last attack they do on the 0 fall-off will cast the entire Stormlash damage window. So there's some, like, catch-up mechanic or some like bad RNG protection built into it. But again, if the person is not attacking all the time, you'll lose damage. If they don't attack till the very end, you'll gain all of it. But it kind of has, it's a little weird. By default, it is only one of the only raid buffs in the game right now. But it just happens randomly. The effect when it's happening is kind of obnoxious. You can see that, of course, in the VOD when I do a lot of Stormlash testing toward the end of it, where like lightning bolts fly out of the shaman that's casting it, right, from themselves. And when the actual Stormlash procs, you'll see that on me later, where like lightning shield forms around the person. Reincarnation is a 30-minute cooldown onk, 20% health and mana when you use it. Does not count as a battle res, that hasn't changed. Maelstrom weapon passive right now only reads your auto attacks generate 5 Maelstrom. So auto attack main hand and offhand. And again, Wind Fury in the future is coming back, you know, making sure it's a thing. People were freaking out about this stuff, so I want to make sure I'm just drilling it in that Wind Fury will generate Maelstrom in the patch coming up. Your mastery now is called Enhanced Elements. Same as it is, it still has the Fire, Frost, and Nature damage amplification on your spell damage components, but then it also has a chance every 16% mastery. So you have 16% base mastery, and it increases the chance that Stormbringer and Wind Fury will trigger by 1% every 16% mastery that we get. That was recently changed. They brought up the baseline proc chance and brought down the mastery scaling just a touch, by half, really. But what that means is that now we'll have a little bit less chance for them to proc. So you'll still be able to eventually get to, with higher mastery gear and procs and whatnot and better gearing, probably between like maybe 9 to 12% chance for Wind Fury and Stormbringer, which actually is a lot. It's a lot of times to a proc, so that's the RNG in the spec, is to react to those procs, react to the Maelstrom generation from those procs, and of course to make sure you have the Maelstrom available to use the Stormbringer procs on your Storm Strikes. Still have Wind Shear, still have Water Walking, of course, and what other passes do we have here? We still have Spirit Walk, we still have our Sprint. We'll start running over here to the target dummies as well. Still have Ghost Wolf form. No longer does Ghost Wolf form give you the glyph that makes you run super fast, which is sadly gone forever. May you rest in peace, Ghost Wolf awesome glyph. But now you only have the 30% outdoor or indoor movement speed penalty. The amount, but it prevents, that's the P word I was looking for, prevents going lower than normal movement speed 100%. So snares will only reduce you to 100% movement speed, of course. I still have Purge baseline. Purge is a offensive 1 beneficial magic dispel, costs a ton of mana, but it's been back and forth on having mana as enhancement. I'm totally fine with it because it's for your utility spells. Mana is a thing for your Purge. It's a thing for Healing Surge, which costs a fair bit. It was just recently lowered a little bit, but it's our only self-heal. Wolves, Feral Spirits do not heal us anymore, which I have kind of campaigned for them to bring them back because our survivability is pretty low. But Healing Surge heals for a amount and consumes 20 Maelstrom, if available, to become an instant cast heal. So that's good, but it takes away some damage, obviously, from Maelstrom. Still have Hex, same restrictions, Beasts and Humanoids only, limited 1 target with a 30-second cooldown, up to 1 minute Hex in PvE, and with a little bit of a damage buffer on that Hex, so if you do damage to the target, it doesn't always break instantly. Again, Lightning Bolt is a ranged pulling tool. It does very little damage in comparison, but costs nothing but a global cooldown. But it's a ranged pulling tool. I love the new Lightning Bolt animation. I think it is super Lightning Bolty instead of being a ball lightning. I do enjoy it. That's Lightning Bolt. We have Farsight still baseline. We have Ancestral Spirit, which is a single target res, of course. If you have a healer in your class, you'll have a single target resurrection. We have Astral Recall, which is a Hearthstone, 10-minute Hearthstone. It's bound to wherever your Hearthstone is actually set to. Well, Astral Recall will take you. Astral Shift is our only DR on a 90-second cooldown that lasts for 8 seconds for a 40% less damage taken, by all damage, of course. I know Shamanistic Rage is gone. I'm campaigning to get that back in some way, too, or as a talent choice, but as it currently stands right now, Astral Shift is our only defensive cooldown. Cleanse Spirit removes all curse effects on the target, 8-second cooldown, of course, when we remove something. And now we'll move on to the actual spell effects and what the rotation looks like. We'll pop on these just so you don't see any artifact pops coming out here. These maces look terrible, I know. But the core of the rotation is Rockbiter, it is Lava Lash, it is Storm Strike, and it is your Flame Tongue. Flame Shock is gone, Frost Shock is gone, but they are still sort of here as melee attacks. So by default, our builder is Rockbiter. Rockbiter has no cooldown by default. It does light nature damage, so it's amplified by our mastery, of course. Generates 10 Maelstrom when used, 10-yard range on all these abilities. Flame Tongue is our new Flame Shock, basically. It is a cooldown reduced by haste, 10-yard range as well. You cause light fire damage and enhance your weapons with fire for 16 seconds. This does not currently pandemic, and we're hoping they fix that it should actually pandemic. So if you refresh too early, you gain extra time, up to 30% of the actual overall duration, just for a quality of life improvement. Any other ability like this does pandemic in the game, so I don't know why ours does not yet. but it causes each of your weapon attacks to deal extra fire damage based on weapon speed. So the slower you're attacking based on your current iterations of haste or attack speed or whatever, the more damage it does. To balance out with the faster you attack, the less damage it does, just to keep it so it doesn't go all crazy nonsense. But it's just spell power based damage on your auto attacks. Frostbrand by default does not have any real synergy in the rotation unless you take a talent, which I'll show off later. But Frostbrand costs Maelstrom due to its utility. You chill a target if you're dealing damage originally, but there is no snare on the target for the actual damage. But it will enhance your weapons for 15 seconds, causing each weapon attack to reduce the target's movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. So it's a perma slow as long as you are attacking the target. So that's where your Frost Shock has gone, but again, 10-yard range costs some Maelstrom. But all the attacks have a different animation, which is pretty nice, that all of them are, different from each other. All the animations in Legion 4 Melee are all pretty damn superb compared to how they all look kind of blah in Warlords right now. But then your ability to dump Maelstrom is in Lava Lash. Lava Lash will charge your offhand, dealing with lava, and burn the target, dealing fire damage. It's pretty insignificant overall, only costs 30 Maelstrom, has no cooldown, but Lava Lash is very filler. It is very, very, very filler. It will not really be in the rotation super often, depending on what kind of build you are running or with the set bonuses coming out in the future. We'll have to see how that balances out, but the damage in comparison to Stormstrike is ridiculous. So 20 Maelstrom, well, I have a proc right now, that's what Stormbringer looks like. It has the old Maelstrom pop up here. But is a cooldown reduced by haste, a 16-second cooldown reduced by haste. You energize both weapons with lightning and deliver a massive blow to your target, dealing over, at least baseline right now, over 100,000 physical damage. Physical damage, of course, reduced by armor, but your Storm Strike is your main button. And just to put it in perspective, yes, it changes with the Doomhammer on, but Storm Strike is over 100,000 damage reduced by armor. Lava Lash only 40,000 magic damage. So it's still a huge damage parity. Or not, I guess paradigm maybe, between the two abilities, where for 10 extra Maelstrom you gain so much more damage. But that's the whole point, right? Like, Lava Lash is our filler. I wonder if, there are some hooks on Lava Lash that make it a little bit more, worth it. But right now, of course, numbers are not tuned, so I don't think of it that it's anything that's crazy to think about. They will be tuning numbers over the next couple of weeks, and they'll be figuring things out. That was a hot hand proc there, more on that later. But by default, also, if you Storm Strike multiple times in a row, there are different animation swings for 1 to 2, and then a third Storm Strike will also be another animation as well. But by default, you are going to be building Maelstrom, spending it on Storm Strikes, keeping up your Flame Tongue weapon, and working in those Rock Biters, and burning off extra Maelstrom with Lava Lashes to not cap. Making sure you have the Maelstrom available whenever Storm Strike comes off cooldown normally is incredibly important, but then making sure you also can react to Storm Strike whenever it procs via Stormbringer is also very important as well. So, the rule of thumb, at least to most part, is that we're gonna kind of want to hover around 60 Maelstrom, unless you're just going crazy with AoE. But you want to make sure whenever it comes up you have the 40. But then if you get a proc baseline, that's 20 for the cheaper one, and then 40 for the one after the reset. Let me see if I can get a reset real quick here to show you what that looks like again. It's just a hot hand proc. There we go. So when you get the reset, you need to make sure you have the available Maelstrom to hit both back-to-back, which would cost 60 in total. So overall, our Maelstrom now is a lot more fluid, but it is, again, a little bit slow overall. I have tons right now because I'm just sitting here. But once you get actually into combat, you will have to really pay attention to your Maelstrom usage, because using too many Storm Strikes in a row, or Rock Biters, or Flame Tongues in a row, rather, you will have a bad time. So there is a real benefit now to proper Maelstrom management, which before this patch, we just kind of couldn't get rid of it. We literally could not get rid of our Maelstrom. It was there all the time, and it was overflowing. Our other use of Maelstrom is going to come in the form of our new AoE, which is called Crash Lightning. Crash Lightning costs 20 Maelstrom, or 4 if you don't cast it on anything for whatever reason. It's a non-target necessary frontal cone AoE. where you will electrocute all enemies in front of you on a 6-second cooldown reduced by haste for nature damage. And if you hit 2 or more targets, it will enhance your weapons for 10 seconds, causing Storm Strike and Lava Lash to also deal nature damage to your targets in front of you. So that just means that regardless if you hit Storm Strike or Lava Lash, after you have the Maelstrom bonus going from Crash Lightning, you can hit a Storm Strike or a Lava Lash, and it does the exact same beneficial effect of that frontal cone AoE. It's a very wide cone. It's about 120 degree frontal cone, so you actually get a pretty wide gulf of it, and it's hitting all the targets right here, as you see. But that is our new AoE. It has permanent uptime if you are AoEing, because you can basically just keep spamming it, of course. But again, having the Maelstrom available to utilize it over and over and over again is incredibly important. They're going to want to make sure you still don't waste your too much Maelstrom so you actually have some. Right now it's hard to keep up with because no win for your Maelstrom. You're going to need to also make sure you're rotating in your Storm Strikes. That's a lot of extra damage for a single target. And if you don't have that going, if you don't have your Flame Tongue going, you're going to run out of... you're just going to waste damage. So there's quite a lot of things to juggle. That is the name of the game now for Enhancement. Is instead of having like RNG procs that all you react to is this ammo system like you have right now on live, there is a lot of personal buff management. And some find that fun, some find it not fun. But if you take a certain build, we technically have 5 small form personal buffs to stack. And I hope some of them get pandemicified in the upcoming builds to have a better quality of life, to how some of those windows of time where we have to react to using Maelstrom, gaining Maelstrom, keeping up our little buffs, and just hitting our other ones that spend Maelstrom is kind of a little bit too wishy-washy at times. So hopefully that will get fine-tuned by having the pandemic effect work on our weapon enhancements, rather. So again, no target necessary. It's a pretty wide arc. I think it's a 120 degree 8-yard frontal cone is what the actual math on Crash Lightning is. If I'm way back here, yeah, so it's too far. So I'm like 10 yards away right now. Well, where's 10 yards? 10 yards. Yeah, so it's not 10 yards away, like maybe 8. It could also be 6. It's hard to kind of tell. It could be 8 yards. I'm pretty sure it's 8 yards. But it's a pretty wide arc here, too, so like that's a pretty wide thing. I guess over here again. Yeah, if you are at like max melee range, which is right here, then if you hit your Crash Lightning, it hits way off to your right and your left, see? So it has plenty of space to work with. Not a ton of direct damage itself, but it's very rotational. And in a way, we'll actually be utilizing Crash Lightning in our single target rotation, even as a Maelstrom dump source as well. Hard to utilize right now because we don't have as much Maelstrom generation because of the Wind Fury change, but that'll change in the future. Additionally, baseline, our only other DPS cooldown is going to be Feral Spirits, where you summon 2 Spirit Wolves to aid you in battle or for until canceled. That is a tooltip error. The for until canceled is always a tooltip error whenever you see that popping up. They last for 15 seconds. 15-second duration, 2-minute cooldown. They're immune to movement impairing effects. We tested this. They're immune to like Cone of Cold effects. They're immune to Frost Nova. They're immune to Frost Elemental Freeze. They're immune to root effects and slows, but not immune to stuns. And they will grant you 5 Maelstrom each time they actually physically attack the target. They're little puppies. You'll see in the combat log here, whenever they attack, you are going to gain Maelstrom as well. So they are a DPS cooldown. They get much better with the Doomhammer itself, but they're also a single target or AoE DPS increase for the Shaman because they're going to give you a bunch of Maelstrom when they are out. And their attack speed, of course, is determined by your character stats. So the more haste you have, the faster they will auto-attack. So the more Maelstrom you will garnish from your Feral Spirit puppy dogs being out. But that is the base core of the class by itself. Of course, you still have Heroism, as you see down here, or Bloodlust, if you are the other people. So that's the whole rotation, the baseline of it. And people have been saying on the PTR that without the Doomhammer, the spec feels very kind of blah, which I agree. It kind of has a Retribution Paladin feel, where without the extra bonus from the Doomhammer, it gets a little stale. because you have 1 rotational personal buff, 2 spenders, and 1 builder. And then 1 AoE ability and like 1 pulling ability. So it's kind of baseline. But then once you add in the Doomhammer, which we will do now, badoop, it gets much, much more interesting. So, also on a side note, we do have Glyph of Spirit Raptors and Glyph of Spectral Raptor, so we can become a Ghost Wolf becomes a Raptor. So if you wanted to see how that works right now, I can become a Raptor, Spectral Raptor here, and then I will also glyph our Feral Spirits to become Raptors, because I want to see if the Doomhammer stuff breaks it, and we will see. But yeah, now I'm a Raptor. So if you're a Troll Shaman, rejoice, you can actually turn to a Raptor, even despite the fact that it's still the old Raptor model. It looks kind of awful, but yeah, it's not too bad. I'll show you how to remove glyphs as well a little bit later. So the Doomhammer starts you off right here with an ability called Doom Winds. Another reason why we need to have the Wind Fury buff back to Maelstrom Generation is because Doom Winds is a 45-second cooldown off the global cooldown, where you unleash the inner power of the Doomhammer, causing all auto attacks, to trigger Wind Fury, but increase the damage, increase the damage of Wind Fury dealt by those attacks by a 400% for 6 seconds. What this does is, again, based on your attack speed, how many auto attacks you do get off in this time. The more autos you have in this Doom Wind window, the more damage, of course, your Doom Winds will do. But right now, because it doesn't give you any Maelstrom, it's kind of just a lackluster unlock right now. It's bursty, but you see there, like with my current auto attack speed, I got 1 main hand, 1 offhand, 1 main hand, 1 offhand, 1 main hand, and 1 offhand. So it's actually a awkwardness that if you watch your character, you kind of want to hit Doom Winds right after your offhand swing animation to actually get 6 autos off in that 6 seconds. In total, 3 main hand, 3 offhand, just to maximize the damage. But of course, as you gain more and more haste, it'll be easier to get more auto attacks in that period of time because your swing speed will be, of course, lower. But right now, it really feels badman.gif that we don't get any Maelstrom from this, because every Wind Fury attack should give us 15, if they all land, of course. But it's still a really incredibly good rotational cooldown, has a ton of different synergies with both AoE, for burst, for single target gains, of course, and a couple different talent builds, or at least one can build into amplifying Doom Winds in a way. But it's awesome. Gives you more Wind Fury benefit, so once they give us back the generation on that, it'll feel a lot better. Starting off right down here, we do have the Hammer of Storms, which increases the damage dealt by Storm Strike by 15%. Your number 1 button, so it should do more damage. Now look at the paradigm here between, or I guess the shift now. Lava Lash is doing 52,000 damage, fire damage, of course, and Storm Strike is now up to 142,000. So make sure you hit Storm Strike on cooldown and whenever it procs, basically. Your Gathering of the Maelstrom is 3 additional Maelstrom generation on your Rock Biter ability, or Boulder Fist, if you take the talent. Gathering Storms is that each target hit by Crash Lightning increases the damage dealt by your next Storm Strike within 12 seconds by 6%. This is the weird one, and also why our AoE ability, our Crash Lightning, will be utilized in even single target situations, or of course when you're AoEing, you gain a single target benefit from this. So we've got 18% more damage on this Storm Strike, which got parried twice. I stayed in front of this target dummy because I want to show you the AoE radius, right? But wow, really? Double parry? 3% chance twice in a row game? Wow, my luck when I record these videos is so good. But utilizing Gathering Storms is a single target DPS increase. And if you are Enhanced Shaman main right now, you will realize that, well, we gain single target damage right now on my Shaman when I am Fire Nova spamming to all the high heavens. Which is true. So we still kind of have a AoE to single target damage increase. Because if you have tons of Fire Novas out right now, which Moment with Silencer Fire Nova, it's still here technically. I'll show it to you in a little bit. then Fire Novas spread across and doing tons of AoE damage will also increase the damage you do to the single target boss fight, because you've got, 4, 5, or even 6 sometimes with lots of adds that all AoE Fire Nova and the bosses and actually have the Flame Shock that emanates the Fire Nova. All those Fire Novas hit the boss. And Fire Nova is such a short cooldown on live that you just spam the heck out of it. And it's a single target DPS increase. So they still have this AoE equals extra single target damage with Gathering Storms now for the Enhancement Shaman in Legion, which I think is still cool to have. Whenever your Stormbringer resets, this is Wind Strikes, resets the remaining cooldown of your Storm Strike, you'll gain 10% attack speed for 3 seconds. This is kind of like old Flurry in a way. Stormbringer Mastery-ish effect resets your Storm Strike, you will gain a little bit of attack speed bonus. Wind Surge is 15% damage dealt by Wind Fury. Right now that brings it up to about 7,000 damage per extra attack times 3. Weapons of the Elements increases the damage dealt by Flame Tongue, Rockbiter, Frostbrand, as well as Boulder Fist by 10%. This only increases the actual on-hit damage. So for the Flame Tongue effect, it only increases that hit, right? For Rockbiter, it increases the actual on-hit damage. For if you take Boulder Fist, the on-hit damage, and Frostbrand again, the on-hit damage is amplified by a little bit there. Not the actual auto swing. Doesn't work. Alpha Wolf is that while feral spirits are active, Crash Lightning causes your wolves to attack all nearby enemies for the next 10 seconds. I'll show that off in conjunction real quick here once I get past Spiritual Healing, which is 30% more healing dealt by your Healing Surge effect. Again, it goes instant cast when you actually have the Maelstrom for it. So extra healing is fine because it's our only way to heal ourselves. So take it as you can get it. Well, one of the only ways we can heal ourselves. We can also heal ourselves with Elemental Healing, which activating Astral Shift will heal you for 30% of your max health over 15. It will not heal you, I don't think. Yeah, it's all over heals. So 15 seconds after you use your Astral Shift, you'll gain 6% max HP every 3 seconds. So that just it gives an amplification, little bonus to our only DR. But our first Golden Dragon, I'm going to go through right off the bat here that we're going to get. You're going to want to get this first. The actual leveling path to max out your artifact, most likely as it is right currently recording this video, will be to go right up here. You're going to get Hammer of the Storms, Gathering Storm, Wind Strikes. You're going to get Alpha Wolf. You're going to grab Spiritual Healing. And you're going to then grab Doom Wolves. Doom Wolves with the Doom Hammer imbues each of your feral spirits with fire, frost, or lightning, granting them an extra ability. So this kind of gets a little bit different. So I can't show you the normal AoE of Alpha Wolf in this video due to the fact that I have the Doom Hammer fully empowered. But Alpha Wolf by itself, after you crash lightning with your wolves out, they will, whenever they auto-attack, they will then AoE around them. The Alpha Wolf version is just called Spirit Bomb. They are Spirit Wolves, so they cast Spirit Bomb, which is just a pulsing AoE explosion every time they auto-attack. It does a lot of damage. And now what happens here is that we have Doom Wolves, where Doom Wolves now, 2 of your wolves, each time you summon them, will have one of these random elements. So right now you rolled the bones here on them, and we got a fire and a lightning raptor. So here is their AoEs happening here, I hope, maybe? Hopefully. Yeah, so they're doing it over there, I think. Maybe? Yeah, okay. So the raptor model is not that great now that I see it. What happens here is that each of you're seeing Spirit Bomb right here, which is kind of strange. He's still doing Crackling Surge too. I may have just literally found a bug live testing with that glyph. We're going to show you how to take glyphs off real quick in this video so that I can not experience that again. But you're seeing Spirit Bomb happening here. The Fire Wolf should actually be casting Fire Nova, which did not cast. So, a new bug live on this video. How do you remove glyphs? Well, I'm glad you asked. You need to buy Vanishing Powder, which used to be a thing for rogues. And what Vanishing Powder will do is you click on it right here, and it removes a glyph effect. Let's remove this Feral Spirit glyph. Yes, I want to remove it. Thank you very much. Get out of here. Go away forever. Let's remove the goofy raptor form, too. Because it's just... If it was a new model, it would look fine. But get out of here. Ghost wolf form. You're obviously bugged. There we go. New puppy form. So each of the ghost wolves that are empowered by Doomhammer... I miss having that glyph, I'll tell you what. Have a different element. So Fire uses Fire Nova for its Alpha Wolf explosion. Let me open this back up again. Alpha Wolf Fire is Fire Nova. Alpha Wolf Lightning is a Chain Lightning called Thunderbite. And Alpha Wolf Frost is called Frost something? What's it called again? I actually forgot off the top of my head here. Let me pull up his guide real quick here. Let's do Enhancement. Or is it Legion? Legion Enhancement. Yeah, there it is. It's called Frost something. But let's find it. It is called... Wordup has it all in his guide. I just totally blanked on it. What is it called, Wordup? You put it all down here in your gigantic Google document. Thank you very much. It's so helpful. It is called... I can't remember. Let's see if we get a Frost Wolf right now, shall we? Because I don't know why my brain is like, no, I don't remember that. We got a Frost Wolf, yay, and a Fire Wolf. So there's the Fire Nova effect. Oh, Snowstorm is what it's called. So Snowstorm is just an AoE pulse. It doesn't really have an animation. That's why I probably didn't remember it. So you can see here we have Fire Nova falling off from the Fire Wolf. We have Snowstorm AoEing off from the puppy. But both Snowstorm, which is good they showed up right now, Snowstorm and Fire Nova both have the exact same amount of damage. They have the same exact scaling, same number quotient, whatever. That's all the same. But the Fire Wolf also has a single target damage increase called Fiery Jaws, which is a initial on-hit bite. Let's see if I can find, yeah, Fiery Jaws, hit, right here. Damage, 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 hit. Where's the hit for it? It's an initial hit right there for quite a bit of damage. And then it has a initial, like a Flame Shock dot over the next couple of seconds. Whereas the Frozen, the Frost Wolf, has an ability called Frozen Bite. It's a much longer cooldown, but what Frozen Bite does, it basically does the same thing that Fiery Jaws do, but it's all the damage from like the initial hit plus the dot all as one initial burst hit, all at once. So Frozen Bite hits very, very hard for burst. Fiery Jaws can hit kind of hard for burst, but normally it hits weaker, and then it has the dot effect. But again, Snowstorm and Fire Nova are the exact same damage. Lightning Wolf is a little bit strange. So Lightning Wolf has an ability called Crackling Surge, which is a self buff. And it also has the Chain Lightning called Thunderbite. Thunderbite is a 5-target Chain Lightning. But Crackling Surge, its bonus, its little buff, is it buffs itself for 50% more damage. And because these wolves are random, the Lightning Wolf is actually better for like 3 to 4 target cleave AoE damage. But then Fire and Frost become better at higher targets because they have no AoE cap that we can find. And then additionally, Fire and Frost do more single target damage because they have an elemental bite attack. Whereas Crackling Surge on the Elemental Wolf, the Lightning Wolf rather, just has, there he is, just has a damage buff on their auto attacks. So there you see, there's the Thunder Bite firing off there. Let me change targets to put them over here. Move over here, guys. Maybe? Yeah, there you go. So you see the chain all the way through. But it's 5 targets. But the weird thing about it is that their AoE, because it's 50% stronger, their Thunder Bite actually will do more damage at like 3 to 5 targets. And then Snowstorm will be more damage at more than that. So it's weird that they have this awkward balance, and that Thunder Wolf, the Lightning Wolf, is like not as strong. Like you see that the wolf is meleeing for like, where is his actual melee? You can't, they're not different names. I'm going to assume the 13.2 thousand is the Lightning Wolf melee, and the 88 is the regular wolf, the Frost Wolf right there. But the Frost Wolf also hits for a random extra amount of the Snowstorm damage, or Frozen Bite hits for 132,000, whereas all you get with the Thunder Wolf is just like the extra auto attack damage, which is 50% stronger. But that also makes it weird because even on single target, you're going to want to use Crash Lightning to activate the Alpha Wolf effect. So we don't know yet if they're going to nerf the effect here because by default, again, Crash Lightning only becomes activated at 2 or more targets. So why can you use it on one target to activate Alpha Wolf for a single target DPS increase, even though the wolves are already a single target DPS increase? So this may change that you have to actually hit 2 or more targets to activate Alpha Wolf as well. Otherwise, you're going to use Crash Lightning right after you cast your wolves to make sure that they proc their Fire Nova, their Snowstorm, or their Thunderbite, even on a single target to make sure they're doing more damage. It puts a lot of damage into Feral Spirits, but it gets a little bit random because you technically always want Frost and Fire right now. So I kind of hope they just balance it all out and make them just like flavorful, like look cool. But making Fire, Frost, and Lightning all like different in balancing is going to be weird for like, you could pull once on a single target fight and just get Frost or Fire back and back and back and be fine. And then you can pull and just get Lightning over and over again, which is a DPS loss. So I don't know why they're doing that. It's kind of frustrating, but we'll see if that actually changes. Do one more wolf rotation here. Yay, Fire and Lightning. I think you'll see the Lightning effect go off there and the Fire Nova from the Fire Wolf. So it's whenever they, it's not on the auto attack exactly, but it's kind of close to it. I think there's like an internal cooldown that you can't tell. But between your Crash Lightning, their Fire Nova, their Snowstorm, their Thunderbite, and their extra damage, and of course your auto attacks, Crash Lightning, well, auto attacks, but your Crash Lightning damage coming off, and your Gathering Storms damage gain for your single target. There's a whole lot of synergy here with going for Alpha Wolf and Doom Wolves first. Moving on from that, you're also going to want to go up this tree. You're going to grab Doom Wolves, and then come back out here and grab Storm Flurry. Storm Flurry is a 30% chance to, on Storm Strike cast, to strike an additional time for 40% normal damage, and the effect can chain off itself. There is a funny image in the video description box below where this was not nerfed yet, when it was unbalanced, where Purge hit one Storm Strike with Storm Flurry, and literally got like an entire screen of Storm Strikes. So go look at that if you want. I'll try to see if I can show off a Storm Flurry proc right here for you. It is, of course, just a low chance to actually proc. Oh, right there, on the first one. Look at that. But it's just a single target DPS increase to a degree. We're not actually sure, depending on how random it is to test Storm Flurry, if it actually works with the damage bonus on Crash Lightning. But I don't think it does, because you see I Storm Striked here and got Crash Lightning, but this Storm Strike was a Storm Flurry, and there's no Crash Lightning, so no, it doesn't work exactly. It just counts as extra damage. Because this can chain infinitely, however, it does have a 30% chance every time another Storm Strike effect happens, but obviously it has a descending linear chance where it becomes like a 30%, and then someone worked out the math, like it's like 9% next, and then like 4% next, and like 1 point something next, to get multiple in a row. So you'll see like 2 fairly often, maybe a 3 proc here and there, but you're not going to see, unless you're like super lucky, some ridiculous like 9 chain. So it'd be ridiculous to see more than like 2 or 3 or 4. Getting up above that, like Purge's screenshot, is a little bit silly, but we'll have to see, of course, in the future. But there's no other animation for it, I do not believe. Of course, it obviously has to be RNG on resets and everything else, of course, regardless with the talent. I don't think there is anything else to talk about with that one. I want to do one more Storm Strike here real quick. Yeah, I think it just happens. Do note that your weapon enchants, like your Flame Tongue or Hailstorm in the future, also all proc whenever a Storm Strike goes off with both hands, or Wind Fury also does proc if you want to watch your Flame Tongue right now with Doom Winds. Every Wind Fury attack will also proc Flame Tongue. If I have Frostbrand up, every single attack will also attack the Frostbrand attack, which is the slow baseline. So a lot of extra damage coming from those sources. But yeah, so up this side here, grab this, go back over here and grab Storm Flurry, and then we're going back the other direction. We're going to grab Elemental Healing, we're going to grab Raging Storms. This is when Stormbringer resets the remaining cooldown on Storm Strike. It also increases the damage dealt by your next Storm Strike by 50%. What this also reads as is that the Storm Strike that is reduced in Maelstrom cost is 50% stronger. So if you actually take a talent I'll go in later, it does work on the proc one that's half off, and then the duplicate one with like Tempest, for example. So both of those would be 50% stronger. So huge extra single target DPS right here in Raging Storms. That's why we're going to go up this way. Here, bounce back to get Storm Flurry. You might want to get Storm Flurry before Doom Wolves. Depends on everything else. I mean, you'll have this before raiding starts anyway. And then we'll go get Raging Storms. We're also going to get Spirit of the Maelstrom, which is while in combat in Ghost Wolf form, you generate 15 Maelstrom every 2 seconds. I have it confirmed that the UI team is working on the fact that your Maelstrom bar goes away when you go into Ghost Wolf form. But you'll look here, you're going to gain Maelstrom every 3 seconds, right? 3 seconds? Yeah, 2 seconds, sorry. Every 2 seconds you gain 15. So whenever you're in raid combat or in dungeon combat and using Ghost Wolf to move away from things, or to run away or move out of mechanics, or to reposition yourself in a raid, you'll also just gain some Maelstrom, and when you come out of Ghost Wolf form, you're going to have that Maelstrom to spend. So it's a pretty significant bonus. It's just kind of going to be there, but you're going to use Ghost Wolf form quite a bit in combat. Even if you only get 15 for it, like, it's still more than you would gain, because in Ghost Wolf form, by default, you never gain any. So you're away from this guy to get out of combat, of course. Ba-da-bum-bum. But yep, it's not too bad. It's kind of has some video gamey stuff right now with the fact that the rotation is so slow with Boulder Fist. You actually go into Ghost Wolf form in combat to gain the extra Maelstrom when other abilities are off cooldown. It's not going to go live like that, because that's stupid. Like, wolf sitting in melee combat and auto-attacking is just... no. We're going to pick up Unleash Doom second, where Stormstrike has a chance to unleash the power of Doomhammer, causing your special attacks to heave molten lava or lightning spikes at the target for fire or nature damage. You've seen that a couple of times right here. It just happens on almost every Stormstrike normally. Yeah, they're right there. So they just fly out of the ground. The damage that either one of the spikes do is the same. It just is a flavor thing. So if you gain multiple Stormstrike procs in a row and you're hitting Stormstrikes more often, it's an RPPM system. So you're only going to gain so many of those, which I believe Wordup has written down in his... Let's see, where does he have it? He has it right... Where is it? Wordup, please! I don't think you have it written down here. You totally have to. I don't believe you. Wordup, please. Where is it? Both of these have an RPPM system. So Unleash Doom has a 2 RPPM he has written down here right now. But RPPM systems are also amplified by haste. So the more haste you have, the more RPPMs you will get out of that. So by default, you'll get 2 of these sort of procs to throw out some rocks on the target twice a minute on average. But it's just a single target DPS increase, which is incredibly important, of course, for raiding. Enhancement has always had a single target DPS problem, so utilizing the fact that we have more single target amplification in Unleash Doom, even if it's just random and just passive damage, is helpful. And then we'll come all the way back around here. Of course, we're going to pick up Forged in Lava, 10% Lava Lash damage. Meh. And then we'll grab Doom Vortex, which is what you've been seeing a little bit there. Lava Lash is a chance to cause your Doomhammer to release a fiery tornado at your target's location, dealing fire damage over 3 seconds to enemies within 3 yards. There's a lot of back and forth on Doom Vortex. It is visually very pretty. And it's thematic. It's a 5 times haste RPPM, so it'll happen more often than the Unleash Doom will. But there are some weird problems with it, that it spawns from your right side, because you're swinging from that side. And because it has to travel to the target, if it actually doesn't get there in time, it will not, like, so right there, it ticks every 1 second. It'll only tick twice. But if you're in the target and it spawns, it should tick 3 times. Yeah, see, it ticked 3 times there. Like, the first one, it ticked 3 times, because I'm right next to it. This one ticked 3 times. But if the target moves away from you and, like, runs away from your Doom Vortex, then it will literally not hit them. It will hit targets in a 3-yard AoE around it, But because it has an awkward travel time and doesn't do a lot of damage, it's kind of just like, So we were talking on the stream that, at least Wordup and I were talking about this and agreeing upon the fact that since Doom Wolves does so much extra damage, and Wolves do so much extra damage because of Alpha Wolf as well, we would like to kind of see some of the power pulled away from Alpha Wolf and Doom Wolves and maybe put into Doom Vortex, maybe extending the radius of it so it hits targets around it more often, or if it actually like spawned under the target, you actually Lava Lash. Because the fact that it spawns next to you and then like whirls in just reduces its overall effectiveness if you're not near the target, or if the target like moves away from you, the vortex will be like, no, come back, and it only lasts for 3 seconds and then it goes away forever. So there might be some tweaking to this that needs to happen, but if it goes live like this, of course, it's our last perk we're gonna actually take, so it's not like a super huge deal, but it's, you know, but that's the Doomhammer. Overall, everything, your Paragoning effect here is called Earth-Shattering Blows. It's a 0.5% increase in all damage dealt every time you Paragon a point into this. The 34 of 34 traits have been locked off that you only gain the stamina, the 0.75% more stamina for every trait purchased up to 34 now. So there's no more additional stamina gain depending on if you get more Earth-Shattering Blows late game, of course, for the Paragoning system. I call it that. No official name. It's just the end game progression of your artifact. You can keep dumping an artifact power into the one artifact if you want to make that your main focus. Fire, Iron, and Storm relics, of course, for the Doomhammer. Let's break down some talents now, shall we? So you've seen Hot Hand in action. Hot Hand is a chance to proc whenever you have a Flame Tongue active on your auto attacks. You gain a free Lava Lash that deals double damage. This is a good rotational tool. This is part of the locked rotation, Hot Hand is. Hot Hand is very much a locked rotation to the fact that you have a GCD every global, right? You're hitting a global cooldown every global cooldown. But because right now Maelstrom is kind of low, Hot Hand feels pretty good. Hot Hand also gets even stronger with the tier set we're about to be wearing in the Night Hold when that comes out. And Hot Hand will get stronger with an artifact weapon in the future, or sorry, a legendary weapon. Not weapon, I guess. It's a pair of bracers or something like that, is it? Yeah, it's a pair of bracers. The Akainu's Absolute Justice, which will increase damage by 60% if your weapons are both enhanced by fire and frost. So that may come into play later on. Of course, that'll be a thing I talk about on stream when I'm raiding and whatnot. We can figure out in the future if that becomes a good source of additional damage. But right now, even Hot Hand still doesn't do more damage than your actual just Storm Strikes. So it's 100k right there, and a Storm Strike is still going to be a whole lot more damage. Just the fact that right there, it's over 100,000 damage. It's like 110, not even that, 80 plus 40, 120,000 plus Storm Flurry, right? So it's a nice talent. It keeps you in the locked rotation if you enjoy it. Hot Hand does have a direct synergy, of course, with AoE, because if you are AoEing with Crash Lightning, if you get free Hot Hand procs, you get free sources of extra nature damage to throw out there that doesn't cost your Maelstrom. Not too bad. Your other locked rotational talent here is called Wind Song, which needs some tender love and care, because it's a 45-second rotational cooldown that basically just means you put this into your Doom Winds macro, and it does nature damage on cast. It's on the global cooldown. That's why you put it in the Doom Winds macro, because they can activate at the same time. It'll enhance your weapons with wind, increasing your attack speed by 20% for 15 seconds. But it's a 45-second cooldown that does like no upfront damage, really. And the attack speed bonus is fantastic with Doom Winds. It has a really nice like windy effect around your weapons. It looks really neat. But it kind of doesn't do enough right now, which just comes out of number tuning, sure. But it'll give you more Maelstrom because you're auto-attacking more. Your auto-attacks, of course, generate Maelstrom. It'll give you more auto-attacks with Doom Wind to generate more Maelstrom once they fix it, and generate more damage, of course, from Wind Fury. So it's good. I like it because the whole point of this tier is that this is a proc to react to that keeps you locked down, but it is also a single and multi-target increase. Wind Song is a rotational single-target burst. And then you have Boulder Fist, which is the locked rotation. Boulder Fist replaces Rock Biter, gives it 2 charges. It'll generate 20 Maelstrom base plus the 3 from the artifact perk. 6-second cooldown, reduced by haste, of course, where it does double the damage of Rock Biter. About. A little more than that, actually, I think. And it will enhance your weapons for 10 seconds, increasing all critical strike chance and all damage that you have by 5%. So 10% crit and 5% damage dealt. Now, it also doesn't Pandemic, which is just frustrating, but hopefully that gets changed again in the future. Boulder Fist is the unlocked rotation. Boulder Fist is a huge passive buff because you actually hit less buttons. You have a lot less ways to generate Maelstrom. So you are going to be waiting and hitting that on cooldown, but you want to make sure you're not wasting Maelstrom because you need to make sure you have it up whenever Stormstrike procs. And whenever you get Stormstrike resets through Stormbringer, you need to make sure you have that Maelstrom available. So it slows the rotation down, but it's not too slow. But there can be periods of time where it gets pretty slow. But Boulder Fist is... It has to be balanced around the fact that it is rotationally different, but not be more damage just by default. I like the rotation feeling this way better because I've played Enhancement for so long and it's been GCD locked forever that I kind of enjoy the fact that you have a slower paced build now. But it is, of course, much slower, but as you gain more and more gear, for example, as you gain more haste, the cooldown of Boulder Fist will be lower. You'll auto-attack faster for more generation normally. And I think once the Wind Fury generation comes back on, like, Doom Winds, for example, with your Wind Fury proccing up so much, I think the rotation will feel a lot better. Because right now it does feel, you know, kind of methodically slow. Which isn't a bad thing. But it's just way different than how it just was the other day before they patched it. But those are your rotational ones. You have Hot Hand, Windsong, and Boulder Fist. They all could amount to different tunings and different utilizations in raids and dungeons or whatever, depending on what you are going to be using them all for and how you play your Enhancement Shaman. I enjoy the Boulder Fist playstyle more, even though I like Windsong, and I hope that it gets tweaked enough that it is a benefit for a single target, because coupling it with, like, Doom Winds and Ascendance and Heroism and Wolves is, like, the burst is really strong. But again, you can focus purely on burst, or you can have like rotational and AoE bonuses, or the slower methodical rotation. But again, because you have more passive crit and damage dealt here, Boulder is also not bad for AoE. Again, you just have less building to use AoE out with your Maelstrom. I'll go over the utility tiers next. You've got 2 in a row here. Feral Lunge, which we'll probably set it and forget all the time, is that it's a 8 to 25 yard charge. It is a lunge at the target, where you'll have 30-second cooldown. You'll do a little bit of actual physical damage when you land at the target, but it's a lunge. It's a charge. So it is a in combat, out of combat. It's a charge, and it feels wonderful. They removed the fact early on in my videos Feral Lunge was there, but so was Gust of Wind, which was interesting because Gust of Wind was like a targeted, directional, like small little like blink or like heroic leap. Whereas now all we have is Feral Lunge, which I think is thematic and fine, but we may have this like the entire expansion for personal movement. Our other options here are Rainfall. It's just conductivity. 10-second cooldown. You cannot stack them. Blankets the targeted area in rain, restoring a very low amount of health to 6 allies over 10 seconds, and Storm Strike and Lava Lash will extend the duration up to a maximum of 30 in total. So it's incredibly weak. It's not very good healing. I mean, I have 1.4 million HP. What is a tick for 11,000 even on a crit? So it's conductivity. We really never took it before. We're not going to take it now. It's just not... It needs a little bit something else. It needs some oomph. Maybe like build in a small AG bonus where like your Storm Strikes and Lava Lashes like do some AoE healing when you're in the rainfall. But get out of here. Windrush Totem is a totem you put at the feet, well, at your placement. It's built in totemic projection, where the totem goes down on a 2-minute cooldown for 15 seconds, 40-yard range, where it continuously grants allies who pass within 10 yards of the totem a 60% increased movement speed for 5 seconds. So it is a take on Stampeding Roar. that you will be able to keep giving movement speed to your group, your party, or raid, whatever, but it's more of a raid or party utility. And of course, the refresh whenever you walk into the aura range means that the movement speed aura actually lasts up to 20 seconds because it will last for 5 seconds at the very last refresh there. So good for raid movement, good for possibly helping a tank in your guild or your group kite, for example. But it's a totemic version of Stampeding Roar. It's good, useful in certain situations if you need it. Otherwise, probably Feral Lunge, all the things. Next, we have Lightning Surge Totem, which is just Capacitor Totem renamed. Built-in Totemic Projection again. It's a 2-second delay when you cast it, and it's an 8-yard, 5-second stun after it goes off. No path available. Excuse me? No path available. That was strange. Yep, just a 5-second AoE stun, as we're used to with Capacitor. There's no more, like, Capacitor behind a wall and then Totemic Projection, like, cooking the stun and then throwing it in. So, 2-second delay is pretty fast, but it's only an 8-yard area of effect, so gotta time it well. Earth Grab is literally just Earth Grab plus Earth Bind Totem on a 30-second cooldown. Again, Totemic Projection is built in. And Voodoo Totem replaces Hex. It is an AoE Hex Totem that will only hex targets once, and only hex the targets that are actually in the affected area when you drop the totem. I'll go show you this real quick over here on these unsuspecting river beasts. Again, it's the same exact rules that apply to hex. But if I hex this guy, pull a little closer over here. Pull you over here real quick. Again, it's a skill shot based hex, so I will hex you. And that guy right next to it. But if you were to pull a target through, they actually have a debuff called Hexhaustion, which they cannot be hexed again by the Voodoo Totem for like 10 seconds, 12 seconds, something like that. It's like 15 seconds maybe. So it's not going to be utilized to kite things through it exactly because you have to drop the hex on them. But it's an AoE hex, so you can get a whole lot more value out of just hexing one target for AoE when you can actually hex multiple ones, which is pretty nice. Depends on how good you are at aiming that skill shot, I guess. All right. The last 4 tiers are all more DPS talents. I've had Lightning Shield on this whole time. I have not actually used it at all, though. Lightning Shield is just kind of boring right now. There's an ICD with Lightning Shield, so it's actually just like really bad, like mathematically. It's just Static Shock, if you remember that old set bonus. So you actually put the shield on yourself. Normally, you don't have Lightning Shield at all. So it has a, you start yourself with a Shield of Lightning for 1 hour, which has a chance to deal nature damage when you deal or take melee damage. The way I see this tier, which is awkward, because it's just not like that right now, is that Lightning Shield should kind of be like an AoE bonus. Because right now, it can proc off of AoE abilities, or the Crash Lightning Cleave, or the Crash Lightning Hit. But because the ICD, it only procs like once every like 2 seconds. So like it's just really weak. So if it had like a lower ICD or no ICD, so it could proc multiple times but only once per target, it could be utilized as like an extra little bit of AoE burst. But right now it's just kind of Lightning Shield and it's not that good, and you'll probably not take it if it doesn't go change. But we've submitted feedback. We'll see. Ancestral Swiftness was just recently toned down to 8% attack speed and 8% haste. This is a great set it and forget it. It has the best AoE synergy because you want to generate more Maelstrom to do more AoE, as well as the fact that it reduces the actual cooldown of your Crash Lightning, giving you more haste, and all that good things that go with it. And then Hailstorm, this brings Frostbrand into the rotation because it will make Frostbrand enhance your weapon damage, causing each of your weapon attacks to deal 30% additional weapon damage as Frost. So now this is very much a single target ability, but now if you watch the combat log, when I'm using all of my Wind Fury attacks, you're going to have your Hailstorm attacks going off and your Flame Tongue attacks going off. And of course you'll be double enchanted. This is how you activate those legendary bracers. You don't need Hailstorm, but Hailstorm obviously helps, but Hailstorm is very, very single target focused. So Hailstorm obviously has a synergy with later gearing as well. The more gear you actually have, the more haste you have baseline, the more you don't need AS. But since Hailstorm doesn't do anything for AoE right now, your only real choice is to take AS, unless they change Lightning Shield's ICD. But I think early on we'll definitely be taking Ancestral Swiftness just because we'll have lower gear, and later on we will eventually grab Hailstorm up, depending on the encounter. I've had Empowered Stormlash on right now, which just gives Stormlash one additional target that it jumps to, and a 30% additional damage in that window of time. Overcharge is that Lightning Bolt now comes back into sort of how Lightning Bolt is now, but not really, kind of, sort of, where Lightning Bolt can be utilized for up to 60 Maelstrom, so you want to cast it at 60 most likely, for 1,500% increased damage, but an 8-second cooldown. It actually hits really pretty hard, and as you saw right there, if you go back over to our artifact right now, Doom Vortex will also work with Lightning Bolt if you have Crash Lightning turned on. There was a change to this because with using Overcharge, we're not going to, like, use Lava Lash, like, at all. The suggestion is to make Overcharge replace Lava Lash and have Hot Hand then affect it the same way as it would normally to give you a free proc of that fully empowered Lightning Bolt instead. Because right now, like, unless you get a Hot Hand proc, you're never going to hit... You're not going to hit Lava Lash. Because you don't have the Maelstrom. Because you want to hit Lightning Bolt on cooldown at the high Maelstrom amount. So unless you get a Hot Hand proc, you never hit it. Which is also why they gave you the Doom Vortex synergy. So it's... I don't know, I don't like it very much. It's okay. I think it's mostly like a movement tool, because again, you're going to have in combat phases where you're going to be moving around a lot from the encounter. You're going to be in Ghost Wolf form because you're going to gain the extra Maelstrom from Spirit of the Maelstrom, and you can pop out, boom, at sick Lightning Bolt from far away. But now you see the other problem with Doom Vortex is that if you're far away and you use Lightning Bolt to spawn the Doom Vortex, the Vortex doesn't even get to the target. It's just like, right? So there's a couple different things that we've submitted that hopefully will get looked at before the game goes live. But Overcharge could be there for burst as well in PvP, like having a ranged burst spell. Other choice here is Tempest, which is that Stormbringer now affects the next 2 Storm Strikes. As I said a while ago, the Stormbringer bonus, when it procs the 2 Storm Strikes now, get the Raging Storms 50% more damage on both of the reduced cost Storm Strikes. But now... this is 2 lesser Storm Strikes at 20 and 20 and then 40. And you get the spin around back spin Storm Strike there, which is pretty damn cool. But now with Tempest, you kind of need to float your Maelstrom also now differently. Because you want to make sure you have roughly 80 Maelstrom available all the time. Because you want to hit the 2 ones that are cheaper. But see, I mean, you can get some pretty crazy strings of Tempest and not have the global. You gotta make sure you fire off those Hot Hands if you take Hot Hand, though, so you don't waste those procs, too. So, Enhancement still has the micromanagement feel. In a way, I kind of almost wonder if there's too much micromanagement, but it's because the rotation now feels so much slower because the Maelstrom changes, which, when those come back on Wind Fury, we'll see how it feels. But, yeah, I like Tempest. Tempest is very single target. It also has an AoE benefit, where Empowered Stormlash could have an AoE benefit, because again, that damage your other raiders are doing goes to you. But Overcharge has no AoE benefit at all, so Tempest gives you more Storm Strikes in the Crash Lightning window. This does, of course, give you more opportunities when you're utilizing Gathering Storm in your single target rotation to gain not only the Raging Storm's bonus damage, but the Tempest to have less cost on your actual hit of Storm Strike, and you have more damage on one of the 2 or 3 you're rotating in on cooldown. So, yeah. Next up is the AoE tier. I love the fact that they changed this up. Fury of Air, first up here, is a AoE Breath of Syndragosa that costs Maelstrom and then drains 5 every second. Creates a vortex of wind 8 yards around you, dealing nature damage every 1 second to enemies that are caught in the storm, and slows them by 30% for 3 seconds. It's constant Maelstrom draining AoE. It is strong enough, I think, for like continuous damage. The problem with Fury of Air is this. You see a problem here? Because we gain more Maelstrom than the ability eats, we have permanent Fury of Air in Ghost Wolf form. So that could be really weird for PvP. But for PvE, it also brings like dog sitting, wolf sitting into the rotation kind of as an actual thing. Because if you ever get low on Maelstrom, you could go into Ghost Wolf form for a moment or two just to regain Maelstrom. Like right now. Wait like a second or two. Go right back in. Like, it's not going to be a huge thing. Because you can use Boulder Fist now, and you can like kind of like wiggle around and stay in the window. It's, I don't know. It's, mathematically it's fine, I think. The number is probably a little too low. I kind of wish that it was tuned differently to not have like a permanent duration, but then it would be just too similar to the other abilities in this tier. So we'll see. It's fine. I liked it before. I'm not sure we'll use it very much right now exactly, but other options here are Sundering, which Sundering is a weird one, mostly because of balancing, and my hair wants to like live in my eyeballs right now. This costs 60 Maelstrom, 40-second cooldown. You shatter a line of earth in front of you with your main hand weapon, main hand attack, causing physical damage, knocking all enemies to the side. It's a very small micro knockback. The problem with Sundering is that A, physical damage, B, long cooldown. It's mostly for burst AoE, I understand, and C, also still 60 Maelstrom. So in an actual rotation to utilize this is a lot of setup time for damage reduced by armor when we're literally an elemental-based melee class. So I'm not sure why it doesn't do, like, mixed damage, like fire and nature, like wildfire damage, something like that. I don't know. Or just fire or just nature damage. So we'll see if that gets updated. We have put some more feedback in, of course, about Sundering. Maybe it needs to have, like, a charge system, so you can store up lots of Maelstrom and then throw off, like, multiple Sunderings, or have some synergy with, like, Lava Lash or Storm Strike where you have a chance to, like, lower the cooldown to use it more often in the rotation. It needs a little bit of something else, because it just takes too long to rotate into. And then it's just not... Maybe I'll show you the actual knockback radius here real quick, which is kind of laughable. It's mostly... It's like a AoE interrupt as well, because if the person is channeling something, you will interrupt their cast, because it displaces them. So it's not bad in that sense. It's a micro stun and a micro movement knockback. So it can CC things, it can interrupt channeled spells, it can interrupt casts. So it is another interrupt. Whereas all we have by default is obviously, you know, Wind Shear or casting Hex on something, you know? So the no path available is kind of a new thing. It's so weird. So there is that. But it's okay. It's just might not be used very often right now because it's the main thing is that its damage is so kind of poopy because it's reduced by armor. I mean, you basically take off 30% damage immediately in PvE, if not 35% damage off the top. So other option here is Crashing Storm, which by default is probably the best talent to take right now and maybe the easiest talent to rotate into the rotation in the future, where Crash Lightning, which again, all that stuff about Crash Lightning all affects this, will electrify the ground, leaving an electrical field behind, which deals damage to the targets on it, nature damage, over 6 seconds. So it's an additional AoE benefit. It is just ground-based AoE. It is able to be stacked due to the fact that the cooldown is reduced by haste, so you can have multiple down at once if you have enough haste for it. But because we're also rotating in Crash Lightning, even in the single target rotation, it makes it so it's almost like a much better cooldown to utilize to burn through some Maelstrom than even Lava Lash. So, like, keeping it down all the time is a whole lot of extra free damage. And because when you're casting Crashing Storm, you gain more damage. You gain the Crash Lightning damage. You gain all the benefits of Crash Lightning as well for single target. So it's a strange one. But again, because our Maelstrom right now is so bad, it's kind of hard to keep down 100% of the time anyway. But we'll see about that in the future. It's a great talent. It looks fancy. It's just ground-based, like, consecrate-oriented lightning AoE. It's very pretty. And again, because Crash Lightning is not a directional AoE, you can actually cast it just on the move, and it will leave the lightning on the ground. Next up, we have Landslide, I'll show that off first, and I'll show Ascendance. Landslide is an 8% attack power bonus whenever you have a Rock Biter buff up, or Boulder Fist. We'll take Boulder Fist right now. So now Boulder Fist will give you the Landslide increase, 8% of attack power bonus. This was turned down recently, but it is your currently best form of like set and forget talents down here, as well as AoE, because 8% more attack power is going to be 8% more spell power. Not directly. We still have the mental quickness thing built in the background. So our attack power is actually 30% stronger as our spell power. I'm not sure why they're still doing that math that way, where we still gain more spell power from attack power, or they just didn't just change it to be a 1-to-1 ratio like everyone else that has attack power and spell power coefficients, but I don't do the math of this game, so... But easy to keep up, because you're going to hit Rock Biter on cooldown, you're going to hit lots of Rock Biters if you don't have Boulder Fist, rather. So, just 8% extra attack power for more AoE damage, more single target damage, all that good stuff. Next up, we have Earth and Spike, which is also another problem child talent that hopefully will get some feedback and be taken to heart, because it's a 20-second cooldown, costs 30 Maelstrom, 10-yard range, where you summon an Earth and Spike under an enemy, only a enemy, dealing physical damage, again, more physical damage things that are actually an elemental-based attack, and then it increases the physical and nature damage dealt to the target by 10% for 10 seconds. It's just not that great. It needs to have something else involved. Because yes, it's bursty. Yes, you can couple it up with Windsong, and you can get a whole bunch of extra burst in there. Rotationally, what's awkward about it is you want to make sure you have it off cooldown for when you have Storm Strikes available to utilize the extra 10% damage when you gain the Stormbringer buffs with Tempest and whatnot. So you're not even going to use it on cooldown. Which, it's kind of a weird rotation ability to not use on cooldown, because it's not... And it only affects nature damage, so it almost makes Crashing Storm or Fury of Air, like, mandatory, because you want to have more nature damage put into it, because your physical damage is only really your auto attacks and your Storm Strike. So, if it could do a little bit more, maybe cost less or cost nothing, but again, this also falls into this weird category of that we have enough personal maintenance buffs, right? We have all these things to juggle already that don't pandemic, which hopefully will, that we have to then work in another juggling debuff buff situation. It's the same argument I had with Feral Druid. Like, having too many ways to snapshot your bleeds is just, it gets frustrating. So Earth and Spike is just, it's frustrating. And then last but not least is Ascendance, which will be used for burst fights, but right now it's pretty trash because of a number of bugs. But Ascendance is just you become a air ascendant for 15 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown, generating 4 Maelstrom per second that you're actually in the ascended form, transforming your auto attacks and Storm Strike into wind attacks, which bypass all armor on the target, and have a 30-yard range. Sadly, it still has a weird bug where it does not reset your Storm Strike going into the Wind Strike ability. Wind Strike is still here. It's no longer Storm Blast, which looked awesome. Wind Strike is like air frisbees. And it also doesn't... It doesn't let your Stormbringer, like, Tempest reset properly. I mean, it's burst, right? It's burst, you auto-attack from range. It gives you more Maelstrom when you're in the form. You're going to also want to not be at range when you're doing it. But it's... I mean, I'm hitting for 350k right there, almost, with those Wind Strikes. But it's... It needs something. Because it's there for burst, and unless you, like, really couple it with Doom Winds and Windsong and, like, Heroism, it's just, like, not enough damage. So, because there's no mastery scaling, you just ignore 30% or 35% of the target's armor based on if it's a non-boss or boss mob. But it's not, it's just... meh. It's bursty, but Landslide right now is also just consistent more damage. And the Earth and Spike is rotationally bursty, but just kind of weak. So numbers tuning needs to happen for sure for the Enhancement Shaman to feel like it's polished. Overall, I love it. I love the changes. I'm just really critical. Obviously, this is my spec. So I hope for the best that they fix the problems Also, Wind Strike for Ascendant still costs 60 Maelstrom, not 40. So like it's like just like a DPS loss almost because it takes more Maelstrom to Wind Strike. So yeah, it's visually impressive. I love it. It looks really pretty. My playlist actually ended with my Dungeon Man soundtrack. I had to restart it. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been a longer video because it's my class. I have much more to say about it. So understandably so if you follow the stream or you play Enhancement Shaman as well. Hope you appreciated the discussion and all of the feedback. But again, leave me your comments down below. If you made it all the way through this video, say or type Storm Strike in the comment section in weird ways, ASCII formats, not like a crazy amount of spam, just type Storm Strike out in one way. Because it feels great to have Storm Strike back as an actual like real button. No more lightning bolt nonsense. Thank you all so much for watching. Video description box down below for more details, for the VOD, for notes, for blue posts, for Wordup's Google document, all that stuff down below. And leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to see more of these in the future. I'll see you on the live stream, see you on social media, see you in Legion, and I will also see you in the next Second Pass testing video.